The start of 2024 has been an exciting time for Mario RPG fans, with the release of two highly anticipated remakes, Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. For longtime fans, these remakes signal the potential revival of two beloved series once thought to be dormant. Excitement for the Big Three grew even further in November with the release of Mario and Luigi Brothership, the long-awaited sequel to a franchise that had not seen a new entry in a decade. While the game sparked hope for the series' future, it also ignited controversy among critics, including IGN, some of whose criticisms, to an extent, I find myself agreeing with. Mario and Luigi Brothership was a game I wanted to love, but my experience felt one-sided, much like a relationship filled with obstacles that hindered my enjoyment. The game had a strong conceptual premise, focusing on the bond between the Mario brothers. This was particularly evident in the opening sequence, where Mario is abruptly separated from Luigi. During this moment, we see Mario in clear distress, isolated, vulnerable, and frantic as he searches the island for any trace of his brother. His concern for Luigi's fate is palpable. When they are finally reunited, their expressions of relief and joy shine through, reinforcing their determination to face the journey ahead together. From that point, the game sets up what should have been an incredible adventure, one where the brothers take on the fiercest adversaries and overcome the tricky obstacles with their signature teamwork. I especially loved how Luigi's character was further expanded, showcasing his knack for improvising creative solutions to advance their goals. Some may argue the opening act is slow, but I would counter that it effectively establishes the emotional stakes and premise of their grand adventure, if only there was one. Upon their reunion at Shapeshift Island, Connie, the apprentice caretaker of the lighthouses, tasked the Mario brothers with reconnecting the islands after Zokket, our antagonist, severs all connections between them. And so, the Mario brothers embark on their journey, shot out of a cannon to reach their first island, where they navigate a series of obstacles using their signature teamwork and battle fierce enemies. Once they complete their objective, they reactivate the lighthouse, reopening a current to the next island where they do the exact same thing. Again, and again, and again. A repetitive structure, don't you think? Surely there must be a break in the monotony. Well, occasionally you'll clear a grand lighthouse, a larger dungeon featuring a boss waiting at the end to stop the Mario brothers from reactivating it. But even these supposed set-piece moments follow the same basic formula. Discover a new island, restore its connection, navigate an obstacle course, repeat. The game presents itself as a grand adventure, yet its progression feels more like checking off tasks on a list. And without meaningful variety or a sense of escalating stakes, the repetition becomes impossible to ignore. But if you have a rebuttal, I can wager a guess for what it is. Aren't all RPGs like that? Well, technically yes. To open the Thousand-Year Door, you run a dungeon, battle a dragon, and collect a star. But the devil is in the details. The objective itself isn't the issue, it's the journey to achieve it. A great RPG isn't just about reaching a goal, it's about the obstacles, rivalries, and unexpected twists that make the adventure feel dynamic. So, if the hero's mission is to reconnect the islands, where's the pushback? What role does Zokket actually play in stopping them? Where's the tension? This is why an active antagonist is crucial in an adventure like Mario and Luigi Brothership. Tension, escalation, and a final obstacle for the player to overcome all hinge on their presence. Naturally, all eyes turn to Zokket, positioned as the ultimate foe. But for Zokket to function as an effective antagonist, his goal must be in direct opposition to the Mario brothers. If their mission is to reconnect the islands, Zokket's should logically involve keeping them isolated. A rather weak motivation, but let's roll with it. So, how does Zokket react when the Mario brothers undermine his goal, island by island? He doesn't. Alright, for argument's sake, let's assume the islands themselves aren't the real concern. What about the great lighthouses? These massive production facilities manufacture glom for mysterious purposes, fortified by Zokket's state-of-the-art security and a formidable boss monster as their last line of defense. Surely, when Mario and Luigi liberate a lighthouse and disrupt glom production, Zokket would retaliate, right? No, he merely shows up on Shapeshift Island, fires an empty taunt as if fulfilling a narrative obligation, and teleports. No threats, no retaliation, no adjustments to his strategy, not even a private moment of recalibration. How are we supposed to take this antagonist seriously when his inaction essentially hands Mario and Luigi free reign? And then there's his actual goal, resurrecting Reclusa using glom energy. But why does Zokket want to reawaken Reclusa? How much glom energy is even required? Does Mario and Luigi liberating the Great Lighthouse undermine his goal? If so, in what way? The game never clarifies these fundamental questions, leaving Zokket's motivations hollow and his presence as an antagonist completely ineffective. Now let's examine the inverse. The Paper Mario series offers one of the best executed villains in his respective franchise, Grodus. His effectiveness lies in his simplicity, his motivations clear, and his actions escalate in direct response to Mario's progress. After Mario obtains the first Crystal Star, we're immediately introduced to Grodus interrogating Princess Peach about the treasure map, only to be interrupted that the first Crystal Star has already been taken. We see Grodus visibly caught off guard, surprised that someone else is pursuing the stars. When Peach inadvertently utters Mario's name, Grodus instantly recognizes his opponent. Without hesitation, he orders Lord Crump to accelerate their operations at the Great Tree. But then, after a moment of doubt, Grodus chooses to reinforce his strategy further, dispatching the Shadow Sirens to ambush Mario in Boggly Woods. Before Chapter 2 even begins, the player is already anticipating at least 2 major confrontations and the unknown dangers ahead. As Mario systematically disrupts Grodus' plans, with each successive chapter, we witness his growing frustration and desperation pushing both sides into an existential conflict. This buildup makes the first and only confrontation between Mario and Grodus feel truly climactic, and his downfall deeply satisfying. Zokket's downfall, on the other hand, is as anticlimactic as the countless generic enemies we've stomped along the way. In a way, this structural flaw also highlights another weakness in the game's world building and the NPCs that inhabit it. Despite the premise emphasizing the importance of teamwork and maintaining relationships, something in the game repeatedly hammers home: many recurring NPCs have little actual relevance in the stakes of the story. It's as though the inhabitants of Shapeshift Island are given unnecessary amounts of screen time to overcompensate for their lack of meaningful contributions, making their interactions increasingly irritating. For example, let's consider Snoutlet's role in the story. Snoutlet occasionally pops out of Luigi's hat to provide his take on the current situation, observations the player could have easily made on their own. His constant interruptions become increasingly disruptive at every story beat where the Mario Brothers are introduced to something new. Similarly, Connie's initial role is fine as she provides exposition about events that took place before the island separation. However, the writers attempt to make her integral to the story without giving her any meaningful task to perform. But wait, you say, isn't she needed to reactivate the Great Lighthouses? Well, yes and no. Connie lacks any martial powers, so she relies on the Mario Brothers for protection. Bringing her into a battle zone effectively makes her a liability, which becomes evident when she rushes ahead and gets captured by Zokket's minions and forces the Mario Brothers to surrender. Moreover, consider this. Is she really necessary to reactivate the lighthouses? Technically, she could have simply passed her watering can to the Mario Brothers and let them handle it. At the very least, she could have given it to Snoutlet so he would have something to do besides nagging the player constantly. This issue extends to even the most minor characters such as the Idle Kids, who claim to be gathering intel with Princess Peach but never actually contribute anything meaningful, despite all the fanfare.
Here we go.
Despite their efforts, I still had to get the rest of the intel. Another recurring character is Techniki, who plays a crucial role in constructing a cannon to breach the fortified lighthouse, only to become a passive bystander given too much screen time. This point is illustrated further by the fact the game gives you the option to replace her with a Daphne, a former rival, and subsequently remove her from the story, a decision I committed to after spending half an hour on a goose chase cooking pizzas. Despite what should be a pivotal event, the wedding between the children of two rival chieftains unfolds without drama, tension, or escalation. Our star-crossed lovers declare their love, sending the Mario Brothers on a scavenger hunt, while the henchmen of Extension Corps, who had shown interest in disrupting the ceremony, accomplished little. The wedding proceeds, vows are exchanged, Mario and Luigi perform, a separated current reconnects, and the event concludes without incident. A rather unremarkable resolution to the lovers' character arcs. This lackluster wedding is merely a symptom of a deeper issue. With repetitive gameplay and an antagonist who remains largely inactive, the stakes feel non-existent, leaving the NPCs just as passive. With nothing meaningful to react to, their presence ultimately amounts to filler rather than a driving force within the story. Now, let's try a thought experiment. How do we make Zokket more active as an antagonist without changing the story structure? First, let's establish the status of Glom, the affliction that Zokket's minions are spreading throughout the world. Those affected by Glom become overwhelmed with negative emotions, leading them to self-isolate and lose the incentive to cooperate with others. This effect becomes especially evident whenever Mario or Luigi falls victim to Glom, refusing to work together. Now, let's expand on Bernadetta and her partner, Chilean. Despite coming from opposing regions, the game spends considerable time developing the relationship. However, when Chilean becomes afflicted with Glom, he turns resentful and isolates himself, putting their bond in danger. So far, nothing in the story structure has been altered. Now, let's make a small tweak. As the Mario Brothers seek out Dr. Volko to help Chilean, Bernadette remains devoted to her partner despite his insistence that she leave him alone. When they return with Dr. Volko, he administers an ant berry, but this time, it's not enough. This baffles Dr. Volko, who ultimately admits defeat. Overcome with desperation, Bernadette pleads with Chilean to come to his senses, and her overwhelming emotions pierces his cold heart, dispelling the Glom with the sheer force of her love. As originally intended, Chilean apologizes to Bernadette for the hurtful things he said, and the two reconcile in a dramatic, heartfelt moment. With their love reaffirmed, Bernadette and Chilean announce their plans to hold their wedding. In the original game, the wedding unfolds as a relatively straightforward event, serving as a celebratory moment but lacking a strong narrative impact. Moving on, after recent events, several NPCs express concerns. Dr. Volko steps in, explaining that ant berries alone aren't enough to cure Glom. What's truly required is an abundance of positive emotions. This realization pushes for the wedding to proceed. Meanwhile, Zokket's minion, Shun, stumbles upon the discovery that Glom can be cured and reports this to Zokket. Initially indifferent, Zokket dismisses the news, saying it matters not. However, Shun insists that the wedding could enable a mass cure, which would significantly delay their Glom energy production. At this, Zokket clenches his fist and rapidly calculates the impact, concluding that production could be hindered by a noticeable percentage. Realizing the threat, he orders the Extension Corps, "Stop the wedding, and depose of that Marco and Luisa while you're at it." Back on Heat Freeze Island, Mario and Luigi are on patrol, acting as the security detail for the upcoming wedding. As they protect the NPCs preparing for the ceremony, they interact with various characters, starting with Princess Peach. Princess Peach takes charge using her authority and the help of the Idol Kids to keep the preparations on track. She turns to Mario and Luigi, highlighting everyone's contributions, while the Idol Kids step forward with determination, promising to see the wedding through the end. Princess Peach smiles warmly as she sends off the Mario Brothers, confident that everyone remains safe under their watch. Next, Mario and Luigi check in on Connie and Techniki, who are hard at work preparing a special scientific wedding cake. Well, science being relative. They'll be fine. Everything appears calm under the Mario Brothers' watch until the brothers leap into action and discover a spy lurking in the bushes. After a quick skirmish, they subdue the intruders and begin interrogating them for information. Even in defeat, the minions sneer at the Mario Brothers with smug confidence. Minion 2 reveals their wicked plan. The Extension Corps is preparing to fire a cannon at Heat Freeze Island, targeting the wedding itself. Everyone is shocked by their audacity to attack such a sacred event, as others demand to know the cannon's location. Technikis quietly steps away. After a brief exchange, Bernadette and Chilium make a difficult decision. They will postpone the wedding to evacuate the island. The idle kids object. They know Zokket will never give them another opportunity to hold this wedding. Then, without a word, Mario and Luigi exchange a glance and jump forward, volunteering to stop the cannon themselves. Connie cheers them on, and Techniki returns with her analysis based on her calculations that the cannon is likely stationed at a great lighthouse. Chilium confirms it. The frozen Great Lighthouse must be the source of the attack. Bernadette, outraged, vows to not let them ruin their special day. Princess Peach steps forward with a firm decision. Mario and Luigi will head to the lighthouse with Connie to stop the cannon while the wedding preparations continue. The NPCs cheer as the Mario Brothers soar towards the Great Lighthouse where Zokket's forces await, fully prepared for their inevitable arrival. The Ice Lighthouse plays out as intended with minimal revisions. Connie is taken hostage by the minions, forcing the Mario Brothers to surrender. Captured and separated, Mario and Luigi must escape their cells, sneak past the guards, reunite with Connie, and confront the Extension Corps, leading to the climactic boss battle. To build suspense and track progress, 2 climactic intervals will cut back to the wedding ceremony on Heat Freeze Island. These moments act as narrative checkpoints, punctuating the player's journey and increasing tension as the threat of the cannon looms. The first wedding interval is triggered after Mario and Luigi are captured and thrown into their cells. Meanwhile, the wedding preparations continue undeterred on Heat Freeze Island. Bernadette walks down the aisle in a stunning wedding dress. Chilium waits at the altar, his heart racing with anticipation. The crowd gasps in admiration, but glances nervously towards the horizon. The once clear sky grows dark and turbulent. A chilling wind howls, carrying an ominous whisper. Something is wrong. Despite the growing sense of dread, the ceremony presses on. Transitioning back, Mario and Luigi break free from their cells. They sneak past the guards and overcome every obstacle and finally rescue Connie. This in turn triggers the second wedding interval, where Bernadette and Chilium stand ready to exchange their vows. But suddenly, "I object!" the voice echoes across the island. Chilium's father, still under the control of the Glom, steps forward, his eyes glowing with rage and shrouded in a sinister aura. Bernadette turns to her own father, who once gave the couple his blessing. "Please," she pleads, "say something." But he remains silent, conflicted. Regardless, even after being renounced by his own father, Chilium remains firm. Suddenly, a low hum vibrates through the air. The ocean horizon, where atop the distant Great Lighthouse, the massive cannon begins to glow, charging up once more. Transitioning back to the Mario Brothers, they eventually reach the inside of the lighthouse's inner sanctum, where Mario and Luigi confront Shun. With a cruel smile, he summons the Glob Monster, leading to a fierce battle. The encounter will remain unchanged from the original game, including Luigi's logic actions. After a hard-fought victory, Shun retreats, and the Mario Brothers pursue him to the top of the lighthouse. There, the other Extension Corps chastise him for his failure. When Mario and Luigi burst in, the villains scramble. With no time to spare, they decide to fight together as a trio, while the cannon charges behind them. The boss battle mirrors the one at Zokket's fortress, but without the plug mechanics. Instead, the trio tries to overwhelm the player with relentless attacks. It's a high-stakes, fast-paced fight against the clock. With superior teamwork and timing, Mario and Luigi defeats the Extension Corps. Connie rushes in to purify the lighthouse, deactivating the cannon just in time. The skies begin to lighten. Peace is momentarily restored. The villains, battered and beaten, summon 3 Snaptors to escape. Mario and Luigi leap after them, but are knocked off course, launching them high into the air. Meanwhile, the wedding reaches its climax. With their father's blessing, Bernadette and Chilliam declare their vows. The guests erupt into cheers. And Mario and Luigi sends them off with a celebratory dance. Concluding this momentous event. This slight revision not only rearranges events, but also gives our NPCs and the antagonist Zokket a more active role in the story while preserving the original structure's integrity. Every NPC, no matter how minor, contributes to organizing the wedding, directly counteracting the glom pandemic. This reinforces the game's core theme of the importance of bonds, while also giving the otherwise passive Zokket a concrete reason to intervene. With the cannon poised to jeopardize the wedding, the stakes are raised to near existential levels, forcing every NPC and the player into action. The Mario Brothers' triumph over Zokket's forces, capped off with a comedic payoff, makes for a genuine, heartfelt, and memorable moment, all thanks to the collective efforts of everyone involved. Moreover, this change forces Zokket into a more active role in the story. After his intervention fails, he fully acknowledges the Mario Brothers as direct obstacles to his goal. As a result, future confrontations between the heroes and Zokket's forces feel more intentional rather than incidental, naturally escalating the conflict until Zokket is ultimately defeated, all without making any major structural changes to the story. Though, despite my alterations, I fear they are not enough to fix the structural issues that plague the game. While I have given the NPCs and Zokket a more active role, it doesn't resolve the fact that they were inactive for the first 15 hours of the plot, or that Zokket never acknowledged the Mario Brothers until they infiltrated his fortress. The reality is that the structural integrity of the plot was already compromised the moment they failed to clarify the objective for both the player and the antagonist. Without something to contest, neither side had a reason to interact with the other until the climax demanded it. The most difficult thing I find as an artist is to forgo the first draft and commit to a second rewrite. However, with millions of actual money involved in a large-scale project like this, along with the requirements of coordinating various teams, any course correction may have been impossible. If it were possible to take the core themes of Brothership and refine them in a second rewrite to address the structural issues, then perhaps we could have truly witnessed a spectacular resurgence of a great series that is The Adventures of Mario and Luigi. That said, the game's widespread appeal proves it still resonates with many fans, so it's not as though the project was entirely unsuccessful. As flawed as Brothership is, it has reignited hope for the continuation of the Mario RPG franchise. Perhaps that in itself makes the game successful despite its shortcomings.